I don't know
Alright,
if I could talk about the other two, actually.
I think it's all ready to go.
Okay.
I've hit record, ready whenever you are.
1, 2, 3. Okay, fuck you.
Hello.
Are you kidding me? Can you not hear me?
Did
That's
you hear me?
impossible. Audio. What a fucking piece of shit. Why would it do
Oh,
that?
well.
Why would it do that?
So you really gotta ask questions.
It set my VR headset as the microphone.
Just as long as it isn't your microphone, that's all it's looking for.
This is fucking horseshit. Alright, I'm gonna do the clap. I hope you're still recording. I've been recording
I am.
since the
Yeah,
start.
I'm recording.
1, 2, 3. Okay.
Nice. Alright. Well, it's hasn't been all too long since the last bender,
Yeah.
but eager to get on with it. There's definitely a lot that was unsaid because we just simply didn't have the time for it.
I mean, last episode was a fucking lot to handle in one session. That's for sure.
It tackled a wide variety of topics, some slightly more serious than others.
That last bit, I mean, that was a good place to end it, just because it was, I even said it last session, like, that fucking took it out of me to do that. It was
Yeah,
like
that was...
Goku holding up the fucking spirit bomb, like, I just gave all my energy to that.
Once you start laughing that hard, it's not...
It's impossible to come back.
You can't recover, you just gotta sleep it off. Or you just keep laughing. Eventually you do gotta come down, and you know the bender can't last forever, at least not yet.
Yeah. Well, if you bender lasts forever, it's just impossible to maintain.
No, maybe one day we'll have the resource and the technology to have the 24/7 lo-fi benders to like get mad at.
You know, the only way to keep up energy like that is to go full like World War II infantry and just start taking methamphetamine.
Start taking meth, and we have rotations where we swap out people that kind of sound like us.
To get body doubles
Yeah.
for a 30 view podcast.
That's 30 now, but maybe one day it'll be something worth listening to by several billion people.
Several billion. I think 8 billion is really what we're shooting for.
Yeah, somewhere in the low billions. So I think maybe time to let the cat out of the bag and get the discussion that we wanted to bring up prior into the forefront.
Yes, sir.
Now, how exactly do we even tackle this? Because this is a pretty broad subject.
I think just bring it up the same way you did before. So take that little piece and expand upon it.
Okay, well, since I don't remember exactly how I explained it, I guess I'll just dive headfirst into it, talking about conspiracy theories, and not just any conspiracy theory, but the ones that are specifically aimed at those in the
Less
generation.
informed.
Yeah, I was gonna say like the generation like XY bracket. Those people, more specifically generation
Baby boomer,
Y.
between baby boomer and Gen Z, I would say.
Yeah.
'Cause
But
for
I'd say
those uninformed, me and you are Gen Z. I don't know if you know that.
Yes, we are Gen Z.
'Cause I always get them mixed up. I actually had to search it up before.
But a lot of these conspiracies, which are fairly new in terms of conspiracy theories, they are
somewhat, not somewhat, yeah.
Yeah, I'd say relatively new for the most part, and they are mainly absorbed by Generation Y. I'd say that's the largest bracket that consumes them and widely believes them without any scrutiny. And I guess one of the ones that I wanted to tackle first was dinosaurs.
Yes.
That there is a lot of misconception on how dinosaurs are discovered,
How they
they're
are excavated, how fossils even work in the first place.
Yeah, what the fossilization process actually means. Because if you see any of these, anti-dinosaur activists online, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, it's the same shit every time. They say they weren't, those aren't real dinosaur bones.
There's no genetic material in the fossil. It's not even calcium.
Yeah, some real low-hanging fruit. And,
yeah, no shit, Sherlock. They're fucking 66 million years old. The fuck do you think? Like...
Yeah, because, to the vast majority of people, to, clearly more than 60%, they don't understand what dinosaur fossils actually are. If the word dinosaur bones, like the words, are colloquially what is used to refer to the remains of dinosaurs. Mm-hmm. And it's wrong.
I would say that just to give the older generation some credit, I would say most people do think that fossils are bones. Like, a lot of people think that. But it's specifically people of older generations that will then, once they discover that fossils are not actually bones, they immediately leap to, well, fossils aren't
they're
real.
Faked. It's like the pro-dinosaur cabal that's that's every single archaeologist who's ever existed,
it's a fraud.
Yeah, between the early mid 19th century to today, has all been working together to fake all these creatures that existed, that we had the excavation technology around the time to really start looking into, really start examining, classifying.
Mm-hmm.
And now that whole deal of believing that dinosaur bones really are bones is or maybe the lack of, them actually existing. That's the entire foundation for the anti-dinosaur conspiracy theory. That's where it all hinges on. That's why you'll hear these people, and they'll say, why can't we go into the back rooms of the Smithsonian? And why, that's where they specifically hold the real dinosaur bones. Why don't they let us in there and test them and find out if it's really genetic material?
There is no fucking genetic material.
Yeah.
If people can't wrap their heads around the fact that, once again, it's over 60 million years ago, there is no genetic material. There's no bone left because the bone was turned to rock. Over time, it was condensed and pressurized and heated, and it's gone. All we have is an imprint of what it once was. But they don't understand that.
Nope.
And I
shit clue.
I don't know if this was something that was related to what led to you sending me that, but I did see this article that was an auction. I don't know if that had anything to do with it. Christie's auction pulled $25 million T-Rex T-Rex skeleton after experts pointed out that most of its bones are replicas. I don't know if that's what led to that, but that was something that happened recently.
Yeah, it's is it a physical mock-up?
It was a straight-up, complete T-Rex skeleton. A T-Rex fossil that was up for auction, $25 million, and then experts came and examined it and said that most of it was a replica. And not actual. What the fuck was that?
So it was an actual physical slab of a near supposedly complete fossilized T-Rex, but most of the bits were just fake.
Yes.
Okay.
And I wasn't sure if that had anything to do with what you had sent me.
No, not actually, but I mean that's still fairly interesting. Honestly, the dinosaur black market
is insane.
It is insane, and it's probably responsible for
the
a handful
conspiracy.
Not only for the conspiracy, but also sadly for probably a lack of maybe some major discoveries which may never come to light because they're being hoarded by some multi-billionaire.
Mm-hmm.
He's got he's got the sole perfectly preserved fossilized skull of some unclassified dinosaur as his living room centerpiece.
The missing link of human evolution.
Yeah, it's probably it's probably on some rich bastard's counter somewhere, and we'll just never know.
Did you ever see the whole thing with Nick Cage?
No.
The actor, where he he had actually bought a full T-Rex skull from something. I don't know if it was an auction house or something, and he had it as like a centerpiece, and then eventually, I don't know what law enforcement came up to him, but something came up to him and was like, hey, like, this skull that you bought was illegally stolen by like some mob that brought it to the gallery that you bought it from.
I guess you got to give it up in that case.
And it's
Nothing
like how
you
much
can do.
other shit was like that, of just like people finding it, not even actual art. Oh my god, I'm spilling this shit all over myself. Oh
You're
god.
You're saying?
I just fucking spilled tea all over my pants. I hit the gritty too hard, and now my tea is fucking leaking. I went out before this, and I drank a little bit, and then me and a friend hit the gritty in the parking lot, and I threw fucking tea all over the place, and it's still leaking even after I got home.
Fantastic. Oh, remember what you were gonna say before you spilled that tea?
I was talking about skeletons being stolen, right?
Yeah, you last
How
ended
much
up
shit
on...
is from, not even from archaeologists, but from just people finding it and selling it on the black market. It's something that I also think about often, is like, how often are fossils and everything, actual bone matter, lost because of people in China grounding them up into traditional medicine? Because that's still a thing that happens in China. They call them dragon bones. They grind them up and they mix them into herbal medicine. That's like a traditional remedy. And it doesn't actually do anything, because most of it's calcified rock at this point. But it's still like a huge black market in China.
And
how much it's been lost back then, and how much of it is still being lost.
I don't know. I mean, it's not like it's not like they're making any more dinosaurs, so I can't imagine it could last all too long. But yeah, it's probably a notable amount, probably more than most people would ever like to admit or even think about.
It's kind of
that
sad.
Has been lost to these practices.
Because fossils are such a rare occurrence that the fact that some of them are being turned into food is very depressing. And that's the other thing that people talk about too, like they'll say like, oh, like fossils, if there were so many animals before, because people who are like creationists believe that the Earth was created fucking like 7,000 years ago or whatever, they'd be like, oh, why aren't there more fossils? And they completely don't understand that, one, the fossils aren't bones, but two, the conditions that it takes to create fossils is such a exact process that fossils are themselves a complete rarity, and the fact that we have any to begin with is just completely stunning and amazing in the first place.
Yes. And that's really what it comes down to. I mean, most conspiracy theories, the basis of it is a lack of understanding of the fundamentals.
What actually happens.
Yeah, behind the fundamentals of what they're trying to scrutinize. And, someone who's very charismatic.
But uninformed.
Yeah, but uninformed will take a look at the situation, see that people are skeptical, and he'll provide a...
somewhat logical, but not very.
Yeah, it'll only be logical purely at face value. Mm-hmm. Like, in your mind, it makes sense, and you'll grab onto it.
Yeah, go on.
And then if you find any problem with it, you just rinse and repeat. Keep finding solutions that make sense at face value, but if you really connect all the pieces, it falls apart. But at that point, it'll be such an argument from authority from these people that, you'll never shake them down.
I think one of the ones that pissed me off the most was a PragerU video about...
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Of how archaeology proves the existence of, like, God or whatever. And it was basically saying that, like, oh, we have all these fossils, but they only start from 500 million years ago when the Cambrian explosion happens. And that there's no fossil record, or very little fossil record, before the Cambrian explosion.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, what a fucking shocker. And they're like, oh, that proves that this is the point where God created life, right here at the Cambrian explosion. And it's just like, before the Cambrian, like, for one, there are fossils before the Cambrian era. It's called the Precambrian. It exists. It's a thing. But two, the bigger problem is that before the Cambrian, pretty much all life was microscopic. Like,
yeah,
and
that was practically
having
nothing.
any fossils of something that doesn't have either a skeleton or an exoskeleton, it's just a blob of genetic material. Like, it's just not gonna happen. Like, it's just not gonna work. But they use that as evidence. Like, good luck getting a fossil of the modern day, like, flu virus. Like, that's just not gonna fossilize. It's too small. No. It's too fleshy. Everything in the Cambrian explosion was basically an invertebrate, so it has an exoskeleton that's very easy to fossilize because it's already calcium.
Yes, and everything else though was some kind of like ancient like sea fern or flatworm, which it's like speaking of miracles, it's incredible that we even have some imprints of those things.
Yeah, like the why can't I remember the stupid worm with the spikes? Hallucigenia.
Yeah, hallucigenia. If that thing even is like a creature, for all we know, that could have been some type of plant.
True.
We'll never know, but it's crazy looking, and we have several of them. And it really is just incredible what these people will come up with. PragerU, fossils, flat Earth.
I still don't believe that that's like a real thing. Like, it has to be a joke, right?
Well, I wouldn't doubt at all if the origins of it were a joke, but
some people
believe
just took it serious.
Yes, is that there has definitely been a blow up of people believing in flat Earth, or I guess maybe all pretending they believe in flat Earth. Whatever one is true, I don't really care.
There is definitely a certain level of there has to be I would say most of the people are doing it for the joke, but then they find the people who legitimately believe it and they egg them on. That has to be how it happens.
Yes, but I would definitely say there is a consistent community that is slowly growing to believe flat Earth, because in recent years there has been a increase in anti-government, anti-authoritarian ideology, and when you have these people who are now not believing a word that comes out of the media, comes out of the government's mouths, they are going to latch on to every single anti-government mandated view. Yeah, anti-establishment view, no matter how stupid it is.
But it's just so crazy because you have like thinkers from antiquity that knew that the world was round just from basic observation of the world around them.
Yes.
Like, if flat Earth is not a new, or a round Earth rather, is not a new thing. It's been known for thousands of years at this point, and people will still latch on to flat Earth as if it's just like some thing that's been lost.
Yeah, and anytime you see the models that that the genuine flat earthers will present, they are almost always based on a model of Earth that is probably like 100 times smaller than it is in reality. They'll have some crazy stuff. I remember my favorite one is showing two different models of a hot air balloon taking off from from a round Earth and then taking off from the flat Earth. And when it takes off from the round Earth, the Earth is immediately just like the size of a basketball, when this thing gets 10 feet off the ground. But, the flat Earth one takes off and, it looks like how it does today with, you still see a relatively flat horizon. These people genuinely don't understand the scale of the planet they live on. And, some of them never will. And even if flat Earth is still majority not really believed and is just a joke, because it's always been one of the major joke conspiracy theories, I suppose. There's definitely one that has gained a lot of traction in the past couple of years that I know for a fact is believed by a lot of real people, and that is that nukes are not real. Nuclear weapons are fake.
What the fuck?
I don't know if you've heard at all, but
I have not.
I've
Never heard of that.
I've been seeing a lot of discussion online where people will, bring up nuclear weapons, because there's two camps of people when it comes to nukes. You have the ones that believe that nukes will just like destroy the entire planet like 3 times over, like they're like planet busters that are gonna turn this entire Earth into a red hot magma mess.
Well, the funny thing is that that's already been disproven, because that's what the original creators of the bomb thought would happen.
Yes.
In a way, like Oppenheimer and a lot of those other guys theorized that if you split an atom, and the whole point of a nuclear explosive is to continually split atoms to create the explosion, that reaction would carry over into the atoms that are in the air, and
Yes.
it would cause the air to ignite, which would then cause the ground to ignite and would just blow up the entire fucking planet in one go, because it would just it would just chain reaction, split every atom on the entire planet.
Yep.
Which was a real concern back then, and then they tested the bomb, and that's not what happened. Which was still a fucking scary thing to even think about. That there were actual scientists back then that were like, "Hey, this might kill everybody at once in an instant."
This might end it.
And the government was like, let's figure it out first. Like,
I mean, I guess that's how some of the best inventions in history have been tested, like, except that was one hell of a gamble.
that was one fucking hell of a gamble. It's like, I was about to create a really stupid name. It's like Operation Starfish or whatever. I don't know if you ever heard about that.
Starfish.
Operation something Starfish. I was about to say Black Starfish, but that's not at all what it is. But it was a thing in the 60s where the American government was testing if they could destroy the ozone layer by conducting explosive nuclear tests like high up in the stratosphere. It was some really fucked shit, and it's been talked to death before. But it was basically like they were testing if they could destroy the ozone layer and kill all life on the planet. And their way of testing that was by launching nukes into the atmosphere.
Real hometown heroes.
Yeah. It was like, what if we could do this to the Soviets? But the idea was just destroying the ozone layer. It's fucking insane that they even did this. I can't even type Starfish right now, dude. Operation Starfish Prime, yeah, this is what it was.
Starfish Prime. Well, I mean, back to the root of the conspiracy here is...
Yeah, I really drove that off topic for a second.
I mean, I actually had not heard about that. I mean, you said it was like talk to death. That's the first time I'm hearing about that.
I'm mainly thinking it because I know Joe Rogan mentions it like every single fucking podcast that he does.
Well, when you typically encounter these anti-nuke people, and you say, well, with the smoking gun of like, what about Hiroshima, Nagasaki? And they'll say it was all firebombs and conventional bombs.
That's fucking so stupid.
Because their only frame of reference are the 2 pictures, those 2 famous aerial shots of Hiroshima, Nagasaki, where you still see a lot of like foundations still standing near the source of the bomb. Yeah, exactly. They're like, all the buildings, like look at all this stuff that's still standing. Shouldn't everything here be reduced to rubble?
No.
Yeah, exactly.
The thing that easily disproves that too is the fact that we firebombed Tokyo and fucking every single city in Germany. Like, and you can find those pictures and see what an actual firebombing looks like.
Yes, and the whole point of the anti-nuke stance is to basically say that governments around the world are all in on this one thing where they're faking nuclear weapons to keep things, keep people perpetually afraid, and to keep the world in this, like, I don't know, whatever the hell this is, like 5th generational warfare now.
Nah, that shit's actually dangerous. Like that ideology, because it downplays how fucking awful nuclear bombs actually are.
Yes.
Because even, like, just thinking about that, like, nukes destroy fucking everything. Like, you want people to be afraid of that. 100%. Because think about, like, and this is something that still happens today, but even just me and you, like, our generation, think about how many people you've known throughout time that have said, like, oh, we should just solve like the Middle East problem by just nuking everything. Like just glass the entire desert with nuclear bombs.
Yeah.
And not even thinking about the ramifications of launching nukes to begin with. Like, people already don't fucking fear them, which is a very awful thing. Like,
yes. It really just comes down to a lack of understanding on
how
the
they
history
and what they do.
Yeah, the history of the nuclear weapon, what they do, and you know, the fact that how many nukes have actually been detonated on this earth since the first one. Where was it, like Sarajevo? Is that how you pronounce that?
Sarajevo, yeah.
Yeah, like there's been fucking hundreds of nukes detonated on Earth. This was like such a thing, especially in the 60s, that you could show up and attend a nuclear detonation out in like Nevada. You could pay money, go to a safe spot, or, you know, relatively safe from what they believed, and witness the nuclear detonation. People saw this. You know, if you were in the military, you got to become a nuclear walker. You got to be in the trenches. They detonate a nuclear bomb, and you have to march toward it without any NBC equipment. And
Just
then,
because the government wanted to see what would happen
yeah,
if you walked into the fallout willingly.
Yeah, they wanted to see what would happen, and almost all those people graciously expired from cancer several decades later.
What a fucking shocker. I mean, granted, in hindsight, what a shocker. I guess they didn't have any idea of knowing what would happen back then. But the fact that they unknowingly, or not unknowingly, but told these soldiers who unknowingly walked into it is fucking crazy.
Yeah,
and it does show you how far the government's gonna go to test shit out on its own population.
Yes.
Like, when they did that shit in, like, Georgia, to, like, a bunch of black communities to test out what would happen if they just gave people hepatitis. Whatever that was called. Where they just injected people with hepatitis. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, right?
I do. And, you know, the funny part is that, you know, these conspiracy theorists, they won't tackle on stuff like that, where the actual proven things that the government has admitted to.
Like
that,
MK Ultra.
Yeah.
How many people fucking talk about MK Ultra anymore? And that's like one of the scariest things, like the government testing hallucinogenic drugs to see if they could legitimately mind control an entire population of people by dosing them with drugs. And that shit just flies under the radar. Nobody gives a fuck about MK Ultra.
Well,
but
MK
we'll
Ultra,
say that the government's faking nukes.
Well, MK Ultra is talked about a decent amount in conspiracy circles, and the whole thing is, I believe the origin of MK Ultra, you know, obviously it is giving people drugs, but it was specifically to dose people with LSD to test to see if they would be more likely to admit information under interrogation.
That's how it started.
Yeah, that was like the original
purpose. It very quickly turned into like straight up trying to figure out if they could do mind control.
But you know, but that honestly, it makes it funnier because when you put it like that, because the whole point of it was, you know, you had, you know, theoretical Joe Schmo terrorist that, you know, let's test it. You know, he's not gonna talk. Maybe if we use LSD, we can get him to talk. They give him LSD, and he just starts babbling incoherently, and they're like, you know what? Those are good results. Let's see if we can mind control him now. Like, he could hardly control himself, and now you want to use it again. So the actual effects of MK Ultra, it really like went nowhere. But obviously the intention behind it was the scary thing.
It's the intention behind it, but you also don't know how far it actually went, because obviously if the government found something that worked, they're not gonna fucking publish that, even with the Freedom of Information Act. Like, they're gonna redact all of the shit that actually mattered.
Yes.
They're gonna put out the parts that they're okay with you knowing about. Anything that they don't want you knowing about, that shit's getting cut. 100%.
That's true. I feel like I had another, like, major conspiracy thing to talk about, because, I mean, I think that's pretty much it on nukes. I mean, we not only just completely ruined the anti-nuke crowd and ended it as a conspiracy theory, but
the other thing about the nukes too, like the people who say that like they didn't happen or whatever, like I'm just thinking, like, you show them the pictures of like the Hiroshima shadows or the Nagasaki shadows, whatever they're called, And it's just like, I guess the Japanese just did that.
I mean, they'd probably.
What else is gonna turn someone into just a shadow, a thing of dust that's imprinted onto a wall like that? Firebombs don't fucking do that.
I mean, that probably would be their first like fallback. They'd say like these, yeah, they'd say the extreme.
You cannot incinerate someone with fire that quickly. That's impossible.
Yeah, but that would definitely be their fallback. They'd say like they were hit with combination of fire bombs and conventional bombs, and like they were so close to the detonation that it just like eviscerated them in one instant.
Any normal detonation is gonna blow someone into bits, but it ain't gonna fucking imprint their shadow into a fucking wall like that. It's not gonna turn them into atomized dust.
The only other thing I can think of is that, like you said, they'd probably say that the government did it. Like they came over with their best artists and, drew their silhouette onto the concrete to get, I don't know, like maybe aid from the international community.
It's just like, why would the world agree to that? Considering that, I guess the thing of pretty much any conspiracy theory that comes from like something that happened between the 40s and the 90s, the only thing I could think of is like if it actually was a conspiracy, if it was fake, why would both sides agree to it? Like the same thing with the moon landing, right? Like a lot of people say that the moon landing didn't exist or it was faked or whatever, and it's like you're talking. America claims that we landed people on the moon, and you have the Soviets who are at their height, absolute height of espionage capabilities with the KGB. Like they are top of the world espionage in
like in that decade. Yeah.
And you're telling me that they did not find out that America faked it, and that they didn't, and even if they did, they didn't release it. Like that would have completely destroyed any credibility of America at the time. It would have shown the world that we were not capable, while the Soviets were sending shit into space that we faked it. Like, they would have released that shit in a heartbeat if it was fake. 100%. But people were like, oh, America faked it.
Yep. And another moon thing that people like to bring up is, they'll say, the computers on board the space shuttle were no stronger than like today's calculator. And once again, no shit. If you go back into the 60s, it's not like you're gonna find a fucking Dell laptop. You're gonna find what is supposed to be a room-sized server that had to be compacted down and fit into a cockpit for a space shuttle. Like these things had basic programs that were like really no better than what was on like a fighter jet at the time.
But that's the thing too. Like they had the technology to miniaturize some of it, because the same technology would have been on a fighter jet. It would have been in any sort of naval vessel that needed it. Like they could miniaturize that stuff to a certain degree and put it onto a vessel and make it work.
Yes.
Like they weren't fucking giving them smartphones, because that's not what they had at the time. But they could put a computer of that degree into a vessel like that.
The only other thing I can think of that is widely discussed about the moon landing is a lot of people point to this. I don't know if this ever was something that was publicly said in any capacity. They'll say that NASA claimed that they lost the technology to return to the moon, which I can only assume that that's some kind of fake quote. Like that's gotta be like some doctored quote on like a fake news site.
The only other thing that I'll say is sketchy is that they do say the whole thing too, that NASA lost the original recording of the moon landing, and that like what we got was like the backup footage or some shit like that. It's just like somewhat understandable. But I can tell you that as someone, I don't know, I don't think this is doxing material or whatever, but someone who has a family member who did work on the Apollo missions, like, it's not fucking fake. Like,
yeah. But, it all comes back down to, if you're anti-establishment, you're going to cling on to everything that's...
There's a certain level where it's good to be anti-establishment, but then when you take it too far to where everything is a conspiracy, it becomes destructive.
Yes. And then you're just I mean,
and then you're just a fucking retard. Everyone looks at you and goes, "Oh, that's the asshole that says everything is fake." You're fucking like boy who cries wolf, essentially.
Yep. So the nuke thing, that was the latest conspiracy that I've seen explode in popularity. I was that?
Like, I said that's insane. Like I can't wrap my head around that people think nukes are fake.
But trust me, like from now on, you're gonna. I think you'll start seeing it a little bit more, especially as it gains more traction, because there's no short supply of stupid people.
Oh, yeah, that weapon that can destroy life as we know it and do irreversible damage to the planet, but it's just not worthy about that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, irreversible damage to the planet.
To a certain degree, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, because radiation.
Life will continue no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, like, it could potentially like fuck over like some species of like animals.
It'll fuck over most. The thing is that at the very least, I think humanity in a way would be fine.
Yeah.
Just because humans can adapt to pretty much any fucking thing that gets thrown at us.
Yeah, because if you wanted to look at, let's say there was some horrible, Operation Unthinkable, every single nuclear weapon was launched at each other, like an East versus West style. People kind of just assume that every nuke just hits its target and like all humanity's wiped out, and if you aren't underground, you're just dead because everything just becomes like Fallout 3 above ground, just radiation for the rest of the time. And that's like not how any of it works.
Yeah.
There's a thing called the nuclear triad, which only a handful of countries even have, and that's the capabilities of being able to fire nukes from submarines, from silos, and from stealth bombers. Or I guess just from the air in general, but that's usually what it refers to. And some countries only have 2, some only have 1. North Korea only, has like 2. China really only has like 2. U.S. obviously has all 3. We're like the pioneer of the nuclear triad. Because if all these nukes fired, and that there wasn't some preemptive strike that like started it, like everyone just immediately decided to just simultaneously launch nukes at one another, a large amount of them would be intercepted, for one. And 2, the ones that do land, because not all of them are going to be like MIRV, like top of the line MIRV warheads that are going to
Satan 2s.
Yeah, like the large amount of them, the huge bulk of the 26,000 nuclear weapons that are even like in the world today, or however whatever the number is. I'm kind of pulling that out of my ass. That's just like what I remember. It sounds right. They're all ancient nukes from the 60s and 70s.
And that's not even considering the fact that, one, there's probably not enough ICBMs to even mount them in the first place.
Yeah.
But 2, the fact that you have to mount the warhead onto an ICBM in the first place, which takes a hell of a lot of time. So only very few nukes are actually operational to begin with. And it would take time to get more operational to launch them.
Yes.
But even if so many were launched, nukes don't work the way that sci-fi and like makes them look.
No.
Like, and then especially when you even consider, this is going off topic still, but the fact that the northern hemisphere of the planet and the southern hemisphere of the planet have 2 different airways that are completely separate from one another. Most nukes are landing in the northern hemisphere, so most people in the southern hemisphere are going to be fine.
Yes. Yeah, there's a couple targets.
Some radiation will reach over, yeah, but most people in the southern, there's like the capital of South Africa, the capital of Australia, and like nothing else is worth launching a nuke at.
And I've seen some models that aim shit at like Brazil.
Why?
I don't know. I don't know.
Like,
I guess there's like a couple targets that are like worth a damn in South America.
Brazil already destroyed itself. There's no reason to launch any more nukes at them. You might be improving the situation, to be honest.
But that's another thing about nukes, is that they're all aiming for either urban centers
in the northern hemisphere,
or military complexes, like in the more rural areas. So if like all of these nukes, let's say, I don't know how many nukes are actually operational. We never know that number. That's something that is not released. But just considering the state of things today, I would probably slash, like, if my original ass pull number was 26,000, I'd say the amount of operational nukes, I would put it at maybe 10,000. So you got 10,000 nukes now, some of which might be dropped out of like stealth bombers, some might coming out of silos, some are coming out of submarines. The submarines are the biggest issue of all, We don't know where they are. We have, like, that's that's the point of submarines.
Very little information on how many nukes they actually have
Yes.
on them.
And, you know, they could be anywhere. Silos, you know, unless they're literally being dug as we speak and we don't know about them yet, our governments have a very good idea of where each other's nuclear silos are located. You know, we all have GPS, we all have satellites.
Spy planes.
Spy planes.
Satellites.
We know where that shit is. Stealth bombers, that's another thing. Like, unless you're like a B2 Spirit, if you're a plane flying up in the air trying to drop a nuclear bomb, you're gonna get spotted. You need to have some real top of the line shit in order to have a real first strike capability with a stealth plane. But like, then what are you left with after all of this is said and done? Like a fraction of that original fraction of nukes that are actually functional hit their targets. I would say, how many would even die from such a thing? It would definitely be several million. But it wouldn't be like, I don't even think it would come down to 1 billion.
Definitely not.
Definitely not. It would be,
because people. It's the thing. It sounds like it wouldn't be true, that it wouldn't reach 1 billion, but so few people have a real grasp of how big 1 billion actually is.
Yes.
Because saying 1 billion doesn't sound like much, but when you consider that 1 billion is over 999 million.
Yes.
Like, that's a lot. That's a big fucking number. A really big number. That would be very hard to reach.
Yeah, a lot of people don't understand how big the Earth is. They don't know they don't understand how relatively small the nuclear blasts are on these like ancient 60s and 70s warheads. There'll be a couple that are big that'll really fuck over some places, but I think the majority of detonations would happen in Europe, just from the nature of how close those silos are. You know, from what would be the Warsaw Pact countries and NATO.
And even just to like draw it back real quick to the 1 billion thing, just considering the idea that like, how many people live in New York City again? Like somewhere between 20 and 30 million. Like, even if you dropped a bomb that could theoretically kill every single person in New York City, like, that's such a small percentage of 1 billion.
Yes.
So, undoubtedly a nuke is hitting New York City in this horrible scenario, but you're not killing every single person that lives in New York City. 100%. No. New York City is a big fucking place, and a nuke is not that big of an explosion. Like, it's a big explosion, but ground zero, obviously everyone's dead. And then for a few bit outwards, but I would say the majority of people in New York City are surviving that.
And in this model, where there's, you know, also nuclear explosions there's nukes that are intercepted in midair. So I don't even know where I'd put the number at, like on the initial casualties just from the blasts, like not even talking about the radiation.
I would say
following
maximum of the actual explosions, maximum would be 100 million, probably.
That's kind of what I wanted to say too. The radiation poisoning would probably kill like another maybe 15 million. Just because, like, radiation lasts like what, two weeks, maybe a month tops in certain conditions.
And then the amount of people that would die of some sort of radiation-related cancer afterwards would be immeasurable, undoubtedly.
Yes.
Because it would be so hard to keep track of how many people were actually related to that. But still.
Yeah, that just leaves so many fucking people left on this earth. There'd be a there would be a reconstruction effort that would probably last easily over 100 years. You know, there's still people. I still hear it like every other year. You know, there's still people cleaning up after Katrina. So there would definitely be people.
Though, there's no people cleaning up after Hiroshima and Nagasaki, though.
No, they
got
really...
that shit under wraps real quick, but Katrina is still a problem somehow. I guess a hurricane's worse than a nuclear bomb.
Yeah, I mean, can't call out water damage. You know, it's a bigger player than most would think. When your shit's sunk like Atlantis, that is not easy to recover from.
Yeah, I mean, the Atlanteans are still, gone.
It's hard to believe they're gone.
Yeah, they're under the ocean somewhere. They're in Hollow Earth.
Hollow Earth.
It's so fucking. I don't even know where that comes from, dude.
I don't know. Cause anything that's Hollow Earth related just all stems from just like a couple of pictures on the internet that probably can't be traced back anywhere. just like drawings, but like they exist and people are like oh, like, you know, where do these this had to come from somewhere, you know. It totally isn't just like some schizophrenic guy. Hollow Earth, Hollow Moon.
Since we're on the topic of conspiracy theories, do you want to talk about our old conspiracy theory and really bring it to the forefront of oxygen and its effects on life on Earth?
I was not thinking about that when you said, like, I actually couldn't think of anything when you brought that up. I was kind of scrambling to think what it was. But yeah, the stupid oxygen theory.
The poisonous oxygen theory.
Yeah. It's like, just breathing oxygen
is killing us.
Is the source of
death.
of death in humans.
Because when it comes down, do you want me to explain it? I don't know if you remember the intricacies of it, considering
I mean,
you already forgot it.
If I wanted to lay the basic groundworks, is that all of the processes of human aging can't exist without oxygen consumption.
Because going back way before, like fucking 2 billion years, most life on the planet did not use oxygen in their life processes. And there's an actual historical event that you can search up called the Great Oxidation Event, which is where the oxygen levels on the planet reached a breaking point, and that all these ancient life forms that didn't use oxygen died of poisoning because oxygen actually killed them. And then the life that was left, which are our ancient ancestors, were life forms that did use oxygen in their own metabolism. But the idea here is that oxygen itself, it's not that we're immune to it and that our ancient ancestors weren't immune to it, but that we have a tolerance to it. And that if it wasn't for that, as time goes on, our tolerance to oxygen just gets weaker and weaker and weaker until eventually the oxygen builds up too much and then it kills us by poison.
Yes.
Essentially.
And that's what results in what would be referred to as a natural death.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose
that's
it's not taken
into
your
aging. It's the stress of oxygen over time until it eventually kills you.
You know, it's like when we pull like shit out of our ass and apply it to like a logical like face value science. Like it actually sounds sense. Like it makes sense, and you know it actually sounds like interesting and like funny. And the saddest part too is it probably actually holds weight. I would just like assume it holds actual 100%. Weight. It's probably real.
I think I forgot where. This is a few months ago. I saw something that basically almost said the same thing, and I watched and I was like, "This was our idea from like 6 fucking years ago when we were in high school." Like,
yeah,
like someone took our fucking idea.
we were on top of our games. I guess not enough because you know some of these eggheads are really out here writing master theses on what we had already come to terms to, and
knew.
Yeah, we already knew this. So what's the game plan? You know, what can we do as you know those
as oxygen breathing life forms?
Yeah, as oxygen breathing life forms.
Pray.
Do we pray? Do we hold our breaths?
That's it. I mean, that's the horrible truth of it. We need oxygen to survive, but it's also killing us.
Yes.
It's like women.
And maybe hold that for a second, because I actually have another theory that is relating to ancient humans and specifically women.
Oh god.
But what I was gonna say is
I don't know if it might be good for the podcast.
well, we'll see. We'll see. But what I was gonna say is, you know, back to the oxygen theory here, is that you notice how creatures that have a faster rate of
metabolism die early.
Yeah, not even metabolism, but you know those that breathe faster. You look at rabbits and like rodents, look how fast they breathe, and look at how short their lifespan is.
Yeah. Or like that stupid like shrew creature The fastest metabolism on the planet. I gotta search up what their life expectancy is. You know what I'm talking about? Those shrews that eat like 5 times their body weights or whatever.
That sounds very familiar.
I gotta search this up real quick.
Let's see. What could it be?
I can't fucking type right now, dude. What the fuck? Oh my god. Shrew with fast metabolism. Etruscan shrew. Isn't this also the smallest creature on the planet? I remember searching this up. I don't even know what made me think of it. I searched up, like, what is the smallest mammal alive? I think it's the Etruscan shrew. Smallest known extant mammal. Yep. Does this thing really have the fastest metabolism? Because of its high ratio of surface area to body volume, the Etruscan shrew has an extremely fast metabolism and must eat 1.5 to 2 times its own body weight per food. Or per day.
My god.
Yeah, let's see. What's the life expectancy of these things?
I hope it's like a fruit fly and it's like 1 day. That's the quickest
Etruscan shrew
lifespan I know of for a multi-celled organism.
2 years. The Etruscan shrew lives for about 2 years.
Not too shabby.
For eating twice its own body rate. Dude, I can't even imagine the breaths of these things. But like, also when you think about it, like a hummingbird. Hummingbirds have super fast metabolisms. Because they eat nothing but fucking sugar all day. And if they stop getting sugar for like fucking 45 minutes, they die. The longest life expectancy of a hummingbird is 5 years.
But what was I gonna say? The Stickler theory. Haven't I brought this up before?
Stickler?
The female Stickler theory.
I don't know. It's not ringing a bell right now.
That every
You probably explained it, but I'm not remembering this name.
That every single major evolutionary advantage that brought us to be, you know, handsome, beautiful humans instead of hunched over hairy apes was all because women were such sticklers in their partners, in their mating partners, that they forced us into looking this attractive.
I mean, isn't that the way that all life goes, essentially?
But it all comes down to the female being that picky. You know, if you look at other animals,
they just fuck.
Yeah, you know, but only humans and their predecessors had such picky women that, you know, they chose the men that had less fur on their bodies. They chose the ones that were a little bit more upright. They chose the ones that their hands had maybe a slightly smaller digits. They were able to manipulate things a little bit better. They chose the ones that looked stronger, and every last little thing came to being just because of that.
It's a good idea. The one thing that holds it back, though, is why the fuck do ugly people still exist?
Well, it's because it's because no system is absolutely perfect. I mean,
just random genetic mutation.
I mean, yeah. Look at the human body and how, you know, obviously our evolution hasn't been perfect at all. Our spines are S-shaped. We're not particularly well adjusted for bipedal locomotion in that regard.
That just makes us better. It's like Zuko. I had to fight for my posture. It made me strong. Made me who I am.
It makes me strong. And I'm 70, so it's gonna make me weak.
Correct back posture. I was lucky to be born.
I forgot that famous line. Yeah. My father always talked to me about how good those birds were. He said I was lucky to not be a bird.
Well, that's what people always go to. They're like, oh, humans have horrible backs because we evolved from quadrupeds, while, you know, birds have great back posture because they evolved from other bipedal creatures.
Oh yeah? But where's that great bird civilization, huh?
It's coming.
Oh yeah?
It's never gonna come, because birds are stupid. It's because humans are already at the top, and nothing else can evolve because we've ruined everything. We've had this talk before about how, like, humans are stopping evolution essentially because will never allow another creature to like die out because of our own protection of them.
Yes.
So like we're effectively stopping other creatures from being able to evolve too.
Yes. We are keeping the genetic dead ends of pandas. And just pandas.
But do they have sex in nature? It's just the ones in captivity that don't breed.
Yeah. It's like a great white shark like mating. Like go ahead and find me the go ahead and find me video proof of it. You won't. You can talk about it all day, but until we have like that Japanese team that's able to find like the giant squid and the colossal squid, finding this kind of stuff, it's a pipe dream. Pandas are a dead end. They're artificially kept alive to improve China's image.
100%. They're kept alive because people think they look kind of cute.
Yes, we have a instinctual need to protect the underdog. We have sympathy for things that are in pain or in bad situations.
But we'll never allow them to get better. Because if they get better, then they don't need us anymore.
Well, it's because them getting better requires a lot of suffering, and suffering makes people emotional, and emotion's what drives these decisions in the first place. We're really fighting against our own nature here. Wanting to see things get better, but not wanting to see them exert the horrible force that is required to meet those ends. Which mostly just ends up with pandas dying. I don't think they're gonna pull anything out of their ass unless there's like some miraculous herd of panda bears. I don't know what a group of them's called, that just really starts going at it.
Are pandas even pack animals? I have no idea.
They are fairly social. Yeah. I don't know if that like leads into their adulthood at all. I don't think anyone really like knows. There's probably none left in the wild to like study anyway. It's like the Chinese river dolphin, like another creature that's just like gone. I remember my brother and I had this box set of it was like a bunch of cards that had information on animals, and it was like a wide variety of like sea creatures, land animals, dinosaurs, cryptids, and there was one on the Yangtze river dolphin, and this had to have been from
oh my god.
This had to have been from like 2002 or something.
They're extinct now, right?
Yeah, but back then it said that there was 6 left alive in the world.
Well,
that didn't last too fucking long.
Kind of sad.
Yeah.
At least we still got the Boto.
Yeah, at least we still have like huge, frightening cetaceans like the like Baird's beaked whale. You ever seen that thing?
I don't think so.
If I saw that in the water, I would faint.
Baird's beaked whale.
It's basically a dolphin that's about 50 feet long.
Oh, because I remember you sent me the graph of all cetaceans, and I remembered that. It was all of them, and we saw the giant dolphin, and we're like, what the fuck is that? Like, that's not real.
Yeah, and there's like one grainy shot like somewhere in the Arctic of like it breaching, and it just looks so uncanny. It's like kind of frightening.
I'm still just kind of depressed that stellar sea cow doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah,
that
I mean,
it's just like a ball, but
turns out that gentle giants were just the perfect prey for humanity.
Around like one island off the coast of Alaska, and they're just all gone now.
Yep.
Fucking stupid little creature.
Dodos, stellar sea cows. If you were some peaceful creature that just because like you were too dumb to know any better,
know how to avoid predation by humans,
you were getting turned into prehistoric luxury goods.
Shout out to the dodo. Miss my little homie.
We miss him. You go ahead.
This is something that's completely unrelated, so I don't know if you have any last words to talk about.
Oh no, you're good to go.
So the only thing I was gonna bring up was just a dumb question. I don't know if I've thought about this a lot for no fucking reason. I don't know if you've ever thought about it, but just because I brought up hummingbirds before and we talked about evolution of animals. Have you ever thought about the evolution of hummingbirds and how improbable it is?
I have not, but when you put it like that, I think it's pretty I get where you're going. I get where
you
you're
can
coming
already
from.
tell exactly what I'm saying by that incredibly vague statement.
Yes.
So, because like when you think about hummingbirds, like hummingbirds evolved to be birds that could extract nectar from fruits, or not from fruits, from flowers, right?
Yes.
Because so they can hover when they fly. They have extremely long beaks with extremely long tongues that act as proto-proboscis, so that they can suck the nectar out of a fruit. They can fly, hover, and then fly up to the plant, hover in place, suck it out. But as a result of that, because being able to hover as any sort of creature takes an extreme like metabolic rate, because you have to be able to flap your wings in such a specific way to hover, it takes extreme calories. And the only way to get those calories is by drinking nectar, because you need pure sugar to get the calories, which is pretty much what nectar is in the first place. It's just sugar. So how did hummingbirds evolve? Because they would, in order to be able to collect the nectar, they need the extreme metabolic process of being able to hover. But in order to be able to hover, they need to be able to drink nectar to get the caloric intake necessary to maintain the metabolic process of hovering to begin with. That's a real fucking chicken and the egg situation right there. How did that happen?
I don't know.
That's insane.
We really need to find like the ancient hovering ancestor.
There is a decent level of known, like somewhat known hummingbird evolution. Like we know that there's another group of birds that they are very closely related to that still exist.
Do they hover?
No.
So then
only hummingbirds hover.
So then consuming the nectar had to have like started first. Like it had to. I can assume it was probably some really stupid process where maybe the birds were like a bit bigger,
and they
maybe
could only land next to like fruit, flowers that were next to branches, like incredibly specific areas. Like
that's true, but there's like enough of them that if you are a creature that can fly, that would be a major issue finding them. You know, because like, you know, like when spring hits and flowers become like a huge abundance, you can just go to the ground level and eat all the nectar to your fucking beak's content. And then once you laid an egg and your son all of a sudden was flapping his wings a little bit faster, he's able to stay in place briefly. Now you just set in motion a very stupid evolutionary chain.
Okay, so yeah. So hummingbirds evolved from swifts, which is another type of bird. But if you look at swifts, they don't really look like hummingbirds at all. I mean, they kind of have a similar face, but they have very short beaks. They have very long wings that are good for gliding.
Okay.
It's kind of. I mean, that's the thing. The only thing I can see here is the face of a swift. It looks like kind of like the face of a hummingbird, but that's quite the jump to go from a swift to a hummingbird. 100%.
I don't know. Just some things just they found their niche, no matter how stupid it is. And I'm sure there's probably more examples that are even more apparent than a hummingbird that we probably just aren't aware of.
I know that there's another one
of.
that I've thought of before, but I cannot remember it for the life of me right now. But I would say the hummingbird is one of the most extreme examples of something that its lifestyle revolves around something so specific that it's impossible to think of how that lifestyle came to be,
like outside of accident,
without the adaptations that they already have.
Yes. we need to really start making some like models of the hypothetical ancestors and figuring out, really get to the root of this.
Which came first, the
the hovering or the nectar?
The extreme heartbeat and the needing to eat every like 40 minutes in order to survive, or eating the nectar to begin with. It's so stupid too. I don't know why I know so much about hummingbirds. I just search this shit up and just read about them. Like I don't know if you know anything about hummingbirds sleep, but when they sleep, they essentially like almost die. Every single. Well, it's not that they die, but their heart rate lowers to such an extreme degree when they sleep, just so that they don't starve when they go to sleep. That like they are almost like clinically dead when they sleep. It's insane.
You know, when you bring that up, I can't I can't help but want to bring up the albino alligator.
Oh my god, not the fucking albino alligator again. Are you talking about the stupid life after humans?
Yes.
God fucking damn it. Why don't you talk about it?
I need to get it off my chest for the people at home, just because like every time I think about it, it just gets funnier and funnier. So, tiny little bit of background, there's a show called Life After Humans, where the whole plot of it is, what if humans, like every single human on Earth just disappeared one day, and what would be the ramifications of life on Earth, like 5, 10, 50, 100,000 years afterwards. And the specific topic this time was about zoos, I think, and like what creatures would last the longest without the care of humans being around. And it ended with like this one albino alligator, like a Florida zoo or like a California zoo or something, where it just entered hibernation and then just like
never woke up.
And then just like died after 40 years in its tank. That just gotta suck.
So stupid too, because like it's just stupid too, because if you know anything about alligators, you might know that they like, when it gets cold and their rivers freeze over, what they do is they swim to the surface, poke their noses out so they can breathe, and they allow themselves to be frozen so that they can like just sweep through the winter. But just like the idea that like one of them just does it and just never wakes up. And that's a Spartan. Well, that's a Master Chief. Wake me when you need me.
Yeah, or until his
Nobody
body
ever needs him.
His body just breaks down in the fucking cryotube after 40 years. The electronics like break. You didn't think about that. Who would make it longer, Master Chief in the cryotube, or that one albino alligator in like the San Diego Zoo? I mean, you already got like, I don't even know like how long it was. Like, once again, I might have just pulled 40 years out of my ass. I think it might have been like 20, but honestly, that doesn't make it like any less funny.
It's such like a leap too, because the alligator wouldn't know. How would the alligator know that food isn't coming anymore?
I don't know. I think they explained that once the alligator just like started starving, and it just wasn't getting any food, no like real fresh water, it would just naturally think that it was entering some kind of fucking winter season, and would just instinctively hibernate because of that.
I have no idea. I don't think animals think like that though. Like that'd be like assuming that like your cat or your dog like consciously grows in a winter coat.
No.
Like, they don't. That just shit happens naturally. I don't think alligators like think like, oh, winter's coming. It's time to go to sleep.
Yeah, we'll get a behind the scenes like shot from, you know, you get like the DVD box set of Life After Humans, and they show that they actually tested it for real, and they just like stopped feeding like the real life alligator for like 40 days, and it just died. It didn't even attempt to hibernate. They just found it like belly up in its tank one day.
If it died after 40 days, like it would have already have been starved by that point. Because like alligators can go months without food. Like, they found an already starved alligator and just watched it die.
Yeah, like the team was like, we worked together with the San Diego Zoo staff, and we planned to stop feeding. We stopped feeding Richie the alligator after one day, and like, to our surprise, we found him belly up in his tank the day later. Autopsy showed that he had not had food in his system for 6 months. Yeah, just to like, you know, just as like a gesture of goodwill, they just like put it in the show that it hibernated so that it would win,
Yeah.
It would win the competition. Whereas like,
They
you know,
took many animals and didn't feed them to see how long they could go for. It wasn't just based off of statistics of metabolic rates. They actually took these animals and didn't feed them to see what would happen.
And you know, like, thinking about it more, because I'm like remembering slightly more about the episode as I'm thinking about it, is they like played that off as like kind of like an achievement. It's like it would be the last creature alive, like in captivity. But like it also showed like lions and other animals that like escaped and lived on to like flourish.
Because they always had that in the intro, like the lions roaming like the White House lawn.
Yeah,
that was in the intro of every single episode.
It's like everything escaped and lived like successful lives, but that one alligator
that decided to stay.
Because it couldn't break through like 5 inches of plexiglass. And like if it did, it would just die because it's fucking albino and it's like not in its natural environment. It really is fucked no matter how you slice it. It's like maybe it could have theoretically like caught like snuck up on a half-dying squirrel and like lived another couple like weeks, but those are real positive estimations. The only way to find out for sure is just to starve the animal in actuality.
See how long it goes for. You don't even need to like capture anything. You can just watch all like the drying up watering holes in the savannah. Just monitor that.
Yeah, but this is like way more visceral.
And this is way more evil. So.
Yeah, and you know there's like there's a guilt factor. There's a guilt factor here that's not in the like in like the watering hole scenario, because you can easily stop it.
Easily fix it.
You're putting this animal from captivity into what's basically like prison. He's now your little experiment. You take off the information from the little plaque in front of it, and no longer says, like Richie the alligator, his species, this, that. No, it's just a plaque that has like a little LED ticker on how long it's been since the experiment started.
Since he was fed. Could you imagine walking into a zoo and seeing that? This animal has not been fed in, and there's like a digital counter.
Yeah.
It says like 10 days. You're sitting there and you see it, like the time finally ticks over.
Yeah,
it goes up to 11.
and they're like really having like fun with it too. It's like those like counters that show the national debt, where it has like every last little digit. It's like Richie the alligator has been fed in 10 days, like 9 hours, 5 minutes, 2 seconds, millisecond.
You can see one of the zookeepers. They have like a piece of meat on a fishing line. They're like, covering it just out of reach of the animal.
Yeah, it's like if the alligator theoretically had enough water to do like the tail propulsion thing, it can catch it. But the entire ceiling of this enclosure is just lined with hooks of meat that are just out of its reach. All of the water's dirty. They don't clean it.
Every single enclosure has a vent that leads to the kitchen. So the smell of food is reaching them. But just the smell.
And and even though the alligators have no way of manipulating their facial features to show any kind of emotion,
you can see it in their eyes.
You can still see that this thing is miserable. Testing the emotional prowess of an albino alligator into captivity. I want to see if you can break them.
To see if they could break some reptile.
Yeah,
everyone sees a reptile and they think that there's nothing going on up there. They're gonna be proved wrong when this thing breaks down into tears.
Because I've seen videos of people that have iguanas as pets, or like monitor lizards as pets, and you can like call them by name, snap your fingers, they run to you, they jump on you, and you can pet them and their eyes closed, so they do feel affection. They can't show emotions like like a dog or a cat, with the eye dilation.
They're
and
a completely
their
different
mouth
classification of
yeah.
animal.
Yeah, but it's still there. They can theoretically feel emotions. We just can't tell.
What's the dumbest fucking thing? When people say that fish don't feel pain. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Because like you see it mainly in like pescatarians, and there's some like vegetarians that will eat fish, and you'll ask them like so you'll eat fish but not like cows or whatever, and they'll be like, whoa, the fish like doesn't have any like pain receptor, or like it doesn't feel pain, it doesn't have any emotion. Like, what the fuck? What crack are you fucking smoking?
Yeah, guys, I plucked the fish out.
Have you ever caught a fish Like, it's very clear that when that hook goes through its mouth, that thing is not happy about it. It can feel what you're doing to it.
I mean, you could make the argument that maybe just like it's a natural reflex where it's trying to escape any kind of grasp.
Nah, that fucker's bleeding, and it knows what's happening. It knows that if it breaches that water, it can't breathe. Like, that fucker is not happy about it.
And you know, I wanted to make this point, just going back real quick, because like, when you mentioned like the vent leading into like the
like the food smells.
I was making me think like, what else could they do that's that petty? And I can imagine like the zookeepers go with like a tablet that they press up against the glass, like in view of the gator, and it's showing like footage of like alligators being turned into fucking like purses.
Because if like the alligator can comprehend it.
It's just like they're not taking any chances. They need to maximize the suffering for this poor reptile.
This incredibly primordial creature that really hasn't had to evolve any more complex brain matter for the millions and millions and millions of years that it's been around.
And
This thing cannot comprehend weather in any capacity.
The only thing I could think of that would make it any more evil would be if they specifically turned up like heat lamps in the enclosure to like just the right level that it cooks its albino skin, but like not enough to like kill it. So it's constantly in pain. It's starving, which is like exacerbated by the stench of like the meat.
They'd never give it the somewhat comfort due to alligators of like colder temperatures lowering its metabolism. They purposefully keep it at high temperatures so that way the natural cold-blooded process of the creature consistently keeps it hungry.
They go out of their way to like shoot darts at Richie and knock him out. They have like a fucking veterinarian. They have like the incredible Dr. Pole from like history, like not history, like fucking like Animal Planet, remove all of his teeth
so that it has to grow more.
Yeah, it has to painfully grow all of its teeth back, and like when it's in that in between stage where just his gums, they toss in like a whole turtle.
Once they see even the slightest bit of tooth poking through the gums, they knock it out again and they take the turtle out.
And like the turtle's eating like a king.
That fucker's getting grapes and lettuce and carrots.
And Richie's just starving. You know, life after humans just did not go far enough, I'd say.
Yeah.
I think there should have been no humans at all, except for in that zoo, just doing this.
Yeah. There's way too much animals being superimposed into environments. There would need to be a lot more animals in enclosures getting starved by the zoo staff.
Make this animal miserable. You know, it just like makes it funnier too. And like this is an animal that really can't show any emotion at all.
Yeah.
So like no matter what, you do all of this and it still just has that stupid like perma-fixed like alligator grin on its face where it has its mouth open because it doesn't know what else to do.
Like, you know that on some level it knows how bad its situation is, and it knows that it's being tortured. But you can
comprehend torture.
Not comprehend torture, but it knows that this is not the life it was meant to live in nature. But it cannot, like, you cannot see it on the face of the creature. Every single way this animal uses to communicate with another member of its species is alien to us.
You know, and then, you know, several years down the line, since, you know, Richie here is kept in perfect conditions to remain alive, just barely. And eventually, you know, they get this technology from DARPA. They paid a huge sum for this. And, you know, they knock out Richie, they connect it, like, up to its brain, and they're able to get, like, a very weak but stable wavelength where they can look into its dreams.
They got all, like, the electroreceptors put onto it, so they can read, like, the hormone, the fuck, not hormones.
Like the synapses. I don't know.
Like just like the readings of its brains, like lighting up in different areas to see what it's feeling as it sleeps.
Yeah, like the one tiny little like alligator brain part that handles like feelings is just lit up. Like they're looking on the tiny like 2-inch screen, and you just see this awful world. The alligator's like looking down at his alligator hands, covered in like blood. You know, because you know, I know you know what video I'm talking about, where they did something similar to like a cat, and they supposedly were able to see like through the cat's eyes and how it like comprehended humans. And even though like this wasn't the intention of the study, the narrator notes that the output of it looking at a human's face looked very cat-like.
Mm-hmm.
So they believe that they view us as bigger cats. You know, do you think other animals do the same? Do you think old Richie would like see like giant bipedal alligators torturing him?
No, because alligators will eat humans if given the opportunity to.
Well, so will cats.
I guess that's true.
Like there's always
like
those stories
the
where
people who like die in their apartments. Yeah.
So, and alligators are like no fucking. They're no strangers
but
to like
cats
attacking
only
each other.
Do it if they're starving. Like alligators will bite you if you go into their waters. Like,
that's true, but who knows? Like a loose cannon like Richie, what he would be up to.
Maybe
in this
if
situation.
you had somehow domesticated one, maybe that, you know, the one guy that actually has a pet alligator.
Yeah, the guy's like Nikita, and like it jumps at him like a fucking golden retriever.
But I don't know if you ever saw like the interview with that guy, that alligator actually had like brain damage. Like somebody fucking whacked that thing in the head. And
so it's like it's like Goku. Like if it wasn't hit on the head, he'd literally be like trying to like attack humanity. Is that really like the future here?
Yeah, because if you search that thing up, like you'll talk about like he found it like half dead with like a gash in its fucking head, and he nursed it back to health. And then from that point onward, it was like a fucking lapdog. Like, so that brain injury is probably what turned that alligator from being a primordial reptilian killer into just being like a domesticated pet. Like,
it's crazy how little it takes.
All you have to do, that's the thing, if you want any creature, whether it's a human or a reptile, a bird, whatever it is, if you want it to like you, just fucking whack it in the head and then nurse it back to health.
Like it's honestly insane how like simpler creature brains, like something reptilian or maybe even something like a deer, because like of a point I'm about to get into, can be so drastically altered by a brain injury or by some kind of like disease, like chronic. Like I remember reading about this like a little while ago, like chronic wasting disease in deer, where it's some kind of like prion disease.
Mm-hmm.
But like what it does to deer though is just like crazy, where they'll just like ram their heads into fucking trees,
into rocks until they break their own skull and die.
Yeah, and there's like that one like infamous one where I don't know if it's like infamous story, I don't know if it's real or not, where it's like a deer like after it got shot by a hunter, it stood up on its hind legs and like ran into a fucking lake and drowned itself. Like, who knows? Like, the shit like that is why stories about, like, skinwalkers exist, because of fucking deers with, like, chronic wasting disease.
Prion diseases are fucking terrifying. It's part of the reason why I stopped, like, hunting, because I'm just so deathly afraid of, like, eating a deer that has a prion disease, and, like, just the minuscule... Because I don't think there's ever been a recorded instance of a human getting a prion disease from a deer.
But you don't want to start.
To be the first.
You want to be patient zero.
Yeah, because prion disease, even once you get it, once you get infected with one or whatever, once it develops in you, it takes 10 years for it to kill you. Like, it's 10 years, then you get diagnosed, and within a year of diagnosis, you are dead. So I'm not taking that fucking risk.
Fucking wonderful.
And the sad thing is, prion diseases wouldn't be that common if it wasn't for the fact that we killed off like the almost majority of the native wolf population, because they kept that shit under wraps. But the deer population has exploded, and now prion disease has exploded with it, which is fucking terrifying.
And when you you brought up the whole, like the alligator getting bonked on the head. It kind of makes me think about how, in a lot of ways, things, history, they always say like history repeats itself, like or history like rhymes or whatever. You go back how many years ago, and fucking lobotomies were like the peak of surgical procedures. Like, you'll see what I'm getting at in a second. Yeah. Like something as barbaric as literally just like chopping out a piece of brain.
Poking a hole into someone's brain.
Yeah, poking a hole in someone's brain was revolutionary. You can, if someone had chronic nightmares, just take that piece out of their brain.
If they were gay,
yeah,
just poke a hole in their head.
Yeah, if they're gay, just poke a hole in their head, take the gay piece of the brain out. But
they're never gonna feel anything for the rest of their lives. But
hey,
they're not gay anymore. So.
But looking at the future, like, will there be some weird return where it turns out just like hitting you in the brain in the exact location can completely like correct horrible like wasting mental illnesses like dementia or something?
Dementia is a lot more than just that, though. That's the
but that's the thing. But that's the thing. Like, who knows? Because the brain is so powerful, and like humans only use so much of it. Like, we're not like efficient like computers. You can't like overclock your brain. At least not today.
100% of the brain.
Yeah, the woman she's like in the Richie tank. But what I was gonna say is, we can't like overclock our brains. They're not being run like probably to an efficient level. Mm-hmm. So, but theoretically, if like the science of giving you controlled brain injuries, like, if I'm sure that'd get like some kind of an actual term at some point. If that expanded, maybe there would be ways to give yourself an intentional brain injury that forces your brain into like overcoming dementia. Like sending out like a bunch of fucking proteins or whatnot that like attack the root cause of it like super aggressively.
Do we even know what the root cause of it is, though? That's like
I don't know, but that's why it's just like a future thing.
Fixing like the human body doesn't repair neurons, which is what dementia is attacking to begin with.
Yes, but maybe you can get the brain to do something about it. Who knows? Just hit it in the right place, Richie's he's the test bed. It's not even like the same alligator that we were talking about with it, but like he's the one that's gonna get it. I wonder if that alligator's still alive. I'll have to like look that up like post Bender. But yeah, I think I wouldn't be surprised if something like that turned back up in the medical community. Usually the dumbest, simplest things come back, like how we're seeing in like the Russian-Ukrainian war, trenches and like mud-filled trenches and fucking wastelands of dead trees. Yeah, trench foot, like all this shit's coming back, even though we have modern technology. So maybe something as archaic as lobotomies will come back in some like weird modern form.
Okay, that was a good pause of silence. Well, I gotta piss. Just keep the recording going. I gotta pee real quick.
Okay.
Way too bad right now.
Yeah, Richie, if you're still alive, I'm gonna fucking kill you. I'm gonna tan your albino alligator hide. I'm gonna turn into nice fucking shoes. Give me my white Crocs. That joke doesn't even make sense because you're a fucking alligator. We're gonna do life after Richie, where it's gonna be 5-10 years after you're dead, and we're gonna show your next of kin if you have any like the awful things we did to you. And then we're gonna leave those videos on repeat on a little tablet that's indefinitely charged inside your tank, because that's like where your spirit is haunted to. And you're gonna have to see that in the horrible alligator afterlife that is hell for the rest of eternity. And that's just like year 1 of life after Richie. By year 100, there's just a whole civilization dedicated around, like it'd be like an Aztec type, like death worship of alligator sacrifices, placed up at fucking Tenochtitlan, up on the pyramid of the ziggurats.
Are you done? I'm gonna have to find a way to use that.
I'm glad you heard all of that. I was assuming you could.
Because I was gonna cut between when I left and when I got back. I don't know though. I don't know anymore. But let's get back into it.
My highly violent self-bender about Richie. Alright, well, back into it. We left off on bringing back lobotomies.
More Russians bringing back trench warfare.
Russians bringing back trench warfare. You know, history is
cyclical. Like how leeches have become a thing again. Like using leeches. Because that was a huge thing like 300 years ago. Putting leeches to draw the impurities out of the blood. At least that's what they thought.
Yes.
But like people have started doing leeches again. For I don't fucking know what reason. It's essentially the same mentality though, right? Like just getting impurities out.
Not even for impurities. Because I've actually seen like a documentary back in like the early 2000s actually dealt with the re-emergence of medical leeches, and it was specifically to deal with people that like it was like a blood clot related thing. It was for people that either had like that were prone to blood clots or people whose like blood didn't clot enough. That's like what it was used for specifically. It was very strange, but it had like a genuine purpose that wasn't just fucking like shaman voodoo. It wasn't just like pulled out of their ass. And they did something similar where there was controlled like hornet stings on the body. That one was like a little bit. That one was like a little bit more dumb, but it was something weird. I don't even remember. I don't know if I could ever dig that up again to find out what it was for. It's probably just like the doctor fucking with them at that point.
Yeah, and if you want to go even further back in repeating history, it's like how we use horseshoe blood to try to cure cancer. Horseshoe blood is millions of years old, and now we're going back to it, you know?
Yeah.
You gotta get that copper blood.
And you know, the sad part is that, like, that environment for the horseshoe might even be worse than Richie.
100%.
Your tail's
taking
removed.
Those guys, they're draining them of blood, and at least for the lucky ones die. The unlucky ones get turned into fucking blood cows that get permanently harvested.
Yeah, your tail's removed. You're placed like on top of a jar. Like it's just like barbaric. It's like fucking putting in like a spigot for tree sap. It doesn't even look technologically savvy at all.
It's like when Mr. Krabs is harvesting the jellyfish.
Yeah, except even that looked like more humane. And you're just blue blood just drips. That's all you'll hear for the rest of your life, if they even can hear, which I doubt they can.
They have probably some very primitive audio receptors. Because there's still audio underwater.
Yeah, they just hear like the constant like hitting of like blue blood droplets hitting like the jar
Japanese
below them.
water torture.
Yeah, that's all they ever have. And you know, that would be like an even more fucked up situation of like, what if these creatures had like emotions? Because like a horseshoe crab, I would completely believe that they have zero. But on the off chance that they do feel affection, which I don't think they've shown in any capacity to have any affection
I mean,
at
do
all.
they even have any sort of parental instinct?
I don't
Probably
think so.
not. I think they just lay their eggs and walk away.
Like, they have exactly one reaction when they're touched, and that's to run away or lift their tail up, or both. That's all they do, just run and eat. They're that simple.
The goblin lifestyle.
Yeah, so if they feel emotions, that would be like so fucked up. This creature that has the most primitive eye left like in the animal kingdom, like who knows what it fucking sees? It probably only sees like flashes of light. It only hears like what basically amounts to maybe pulsating.
Well, don't they have composite eyes like most other crustaceans?
Yeah, but they're like weird, like they're even like more primitive than that.
Have you ever seen the eyes on like a microscopic multicellular organism? Because those are like just simple light receptors. Like all they do is detect the light, and that's it.
Yeah, but
like, I think horseshoe crabs have something a little more advanced than that. Like if you compare a horseshoe crab eye to the eye of a water bear, I don't know why I can't remember their actual name right now.
Tardigrade.
Tardigrades, yeah. I think the horseshoe crab is gonna have a one-up on that.
I guess so, but at least like as for like a multi-cellular like large organism, it is, I believe, the most ancient eye in the animal kingdom. And you just all you hear, out of like its primitive ears is just like a simple tone, maybe just like a loud like pop to represent like maybe a potential fucking predator lurking in the sand behind you. You can see light flashing before your eyes. Yet you feel this very human-like fear because you were unfortunately graced with, like, your brain is jam-packed. Your brain has like 2 pulses, one for run, and then one for like the fear of God.
A very common trait in all animals is an instinctual fear of the Almighty.
Who knows how far
Every
it goes.
single animal has an idea of God, and it's
I mean,
it's not a human creation. It's something that everything is born with.
I mean, have you ever read the book Watership Down?
No.
Have you ever heard of that book?
No.
The whole point of that book is basically dealing with that exact idea, except it's for rabbits.
What if animals have God complexes?
Yeah, specifically rabbits, where like rabbits are way more intelligent than we let them off to be. They have their own language on how they like interpret the human worlds, and they have their own fucking mythos and God, like whom grants them like the luck and swiftness that like rabbits need to escape their predators. And like it had a glossary at the end of the book for all the fucking rabbit terms that they had, and like, it takes itself super seriously. Like it was like a book that was like written in fucking like 20th century or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like Flatland. Like, have you heard of that book?
No.
I think that one was written in the 1800s somehow, and it just dealt with like 2-dimensional people and how their life is, like existing on planes that aren't the 3rd dimension. And it almost reads out like a fucking kid's book, but once again it's just taken like really seriously. But like, who knows how far emotions go for like animals? I can only tell so much.
The only time we ever thought of another animal having an idea of God was when those chimps were like stacking rocks around that tree. But wasn't that disproven pretty quickly? Because it was observed of them doing the same ritual around other trees too.
Yeah, they're just like playing a game with each other.
I don't think chimps might be smart enough. The closest we might ever get is dolphins and orcas, but we still don't even know how they talk yet. Well, we know how they communicate, but we don't have any sort of grasp of what their communication actually entails.
No.
Because they speak in fucking dolphin noises, and that shit is unrecognizable to us.
And the scary part is that some cetaceans like belugas are getting a lot better at mimicking human noises.
That's fucking horrifying.
I know there was one case where there was a beluga in captivity, and it had heard its human caretaker so often that it was able to repeat a noise that sounded like "get out" several times. And the fucking diver that was in there giving food got out of the tank, thinking that like his buddy was like calling him. That's how insane that's getting.
And aren't belugas the ones that in nature have like actually learned dolphin language? So like belugas will travel with dolphins and communicate with them.
Yeah. So they're already like trilingual.
Fucking frightening.
Who knows how far that'll go?
It's cool, but it's frightening that they can talk to both dolphins and humans.
Yeah. So theoretically, a particularly gifted dolphin or beluga could make out a word as clear as like a crow. Or like really any kind of intelligent bird, like a parrot.
That's not what I wanted to hear.
Who knows how far it'll go? Because creatures in the ocean are way harder for humans to protect than ones on land, so they actually do get to evolve a little bit. So that means that, unlike chimps, that are pretty much at our complete whim from how few of them exist, dolphins really get a chance to overtake us one day.
They won't.
Yeah, we can't let it happen.
We'll kill them before they do.
Because the problem is they have to come onto land. Yeah, that's the problem. They have to come onto land, and they have to
back.
Yeah, like they need to come onto land. We've already mastered that, and we've already mastered the sea. We already have them beat on 2 fronts.
Unless dolphins learn how to make fire underwater, I'd say we have our spot secured.
they make like an even more advanced form of Greek fire that not only burns on top of water, but burns under it too.
With no oxygen.
A sheer impossibility. Like it somehow ignites the underwater oxygen. It wouldn't even be fire at that point. It would just be like a localized explosion that just consumes all of the oxygen in one spot. It's like the fucking mantis shrimp that like punches you at like the surface of the sun temperature. They just do that, but on like an atomic scale.
I think some people have said that like dolphins, like you need tool use and fire or whatever, and they say like, oh, dolphins would need to evolve hands, which would stop them from being able to swim, right? But they always forget the prehensile penis of the dolphin. Yes. I think dolphins could very quickly evolve their penises into tool graspers. Females are gonna be completely fucked in that scenario. But...
yes, that just places like yet another patriarchal society, on the globe. And I think the only problem is that I don't know how like if that would like put the dolphin in pain. I don't know if that would be like if they'd be in too much pleasure to actually engage in tool use.
They'll
because their penis is
evolve
just
to have
so
less
sensitive.
nerve endings in their penis. They'll be like circumcised humans.
Yeah, like their fins can't like change, but their penises just like lose sensitivity. And I guess speaking of like more stupid books, I've heard about this one book fairly recently. I'm trying to remember what it was called. Like basically, like while I'm just thinking about it, the whole premise of it was these bizarre elephant-like aliens invade Earth, and they like for whatever reason the author decided that they just look exactly like fucking elephants, but they just have two trunks that ended with prehensile like graspers, and that's just like what they use to like attack humans with.
How is that different from a normal trunk? I'm trying to wrap my head around this prehensile trunks. That's
imagine two elephant trunks, but instead of it ending in like two nostrils, they end in 5 smaller trunks that are almost like fingers. Okay, yeah, the name of the
they
book
have
was...
trunks that basically have hands at the end of them.
Yeah, the name of the book was Footfall, and thankfully it does end with a total human victory where we literally nuke them.
Because humans will always win in the case of an alien invasion.
As it should be. And I'm gonna send you a picture of this, while we're doing this, just so you can like see what I'm getting at here.
So I see a picture of an elephant holding an AK-47.
It's like really stupid when you say it like that. But maybe it'd be like just if you wanted to like even try to visualize what dolphin prehensile penis tool use would be, maybe something vaguely similar to that, where you have an animal. You have like a species that, never really developed hands, and now it has to use some stupid method to manipulate things around it.
This is such a stupid fucking thing. Like I'm looking at the cover of the book. It's like a dolphin. It's an elephant holding like an AK-47 looking gun, and it's using like a human hair mirror to peek around a corner to see like a human soldier so it can like shoot without exposing itself. It's like the dumbest fucking thing I've ever seen.
But the thing is, like, if it wasn't an elephant, you could accept it. It's the sheer fact that it's almost a 1-for-1 alien elephant with a second trunk.
Yeah.
Like
it's
if this was
an
like
elephant with a bigger tail and smaller ears.
Yes.
But
other than that, it is near indistinguishable from a fucking elephant, like at a distance. That is an elephant silhouette. I guess the whole point is just to... I mean, I have not read the book myself. I might read it after just, like, reading the synopsis and seeing the cover, because it's just so stupid.
I hate it, too, because, like, you have, like, the human soldier in the background, and then there's just, like, a woman in, like, a party dress behind them for some reason.
I think she's pointing at the elephant, because she's like, oh, it's over there, it's over there. He's like, I don't see it. G.I. Joe over there with his fucking M14, so blissfully unaware. That old Dumbo's fucking packing heat.
If you look at the elephant's mirror, he's looking at the woman and not the soldier with the gun. He's gonna shoot the defenseless woman.
Yeah, like I don't know if like for this bit, if you want to like put like a picture of the cover up, like just like so people can like see how incredibly like stupid this is. But I mean, like it's like if it wasn't for the fact that it's a fucking elephant, this would be a pretty cool picture. Like It could have been anything. I mean, I do appreciate that it's not like a humanoid alien. That's because it's just always done to death. Like, if, you know...
But they had to just make it another Earth animal.
Yeah. Like, you know, you couldn't make it something that's inspired, necessarily. Like inspiration's one thing, but you
Yeah,
just...
like, the fucking... I don't know if you know the L-Core from Mass Effect. But they are, like, very obviously elephant-inspired.
But, like, at a glance, they're way more alien than elephant.
Yes.
Like, that's the point, yeah.
Search it up. It's E-L-C-O-R. L-Core.
E-L-C-O-R.
And just go to images.
Mass Effect. Okay, yeah. I could see that.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly looks more like a Rancor from Star Wars than a fucking elephant. But, like, yeah, that's an alien... Like, that does not look like anything on Earth. But no, we need an elephant with an AK. Like, what a miracle too that like I don't know.
Gun happens to look exactly like an AK-47 that was made for elephant usage.
It's like chrome plated too, so like they got money.
Future.
But I mean, the only sentient life that most people care to think about is others, humanoid ones, because obviously we are self-centered.
We are the perfect evolution.
We are perfect.
It's like that stupid what is it? What if is it a dromaeosaur evolved to be the dominant species? You know, the reptile man or whatever.
The Troodon Man.
Troodon, yeah.
Yeah.
Troodon, yeah. The what if there's this one dinosaur that had a big brain kept evolving to be intelligent,
and it just becomes a green human.
It's just a green human. Yeah, it's the fucking laziest shit I've ever seen. Like, yeah, this dinosaur that has this evolved bipedal stance is just gonna evolve to have a human spine out of nowhere. Why? It already has 2 hands with almost opposable thumbs and like a already good bipedal stance. Why is it gonna just suddenly evolve to be like humans?
'Cause that's all they can think of. No one wants to think outside the box.
Beak. It's gonna evolve a human mouth. Like, it's just fucking so stupid. I hate that stupid fucking Troodon Man. I fucking hate it.
I just don't like the trope of humanoid aliens that are just exactly human up until like the neck and head.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be less of that. And on top of that, all these like sci-fi shit, like anything like Star Trek or Star Wars or anything. Like if you're ever doing like a humanoid alien species, that's like always the only one that has any variety too. Like if you have any other species that is not humanoid, they all look identical.
Yep.
Every time without fail.
Mm-hmm.
And it sucks. It's stupid. Like, obviously,
this is the thing, because I know the Troodon Man one. I'm pretty sure the guy who made it said that like he made it because he thinks that the human body plan is like the peak of evolution for what we do, like being a tool using omnivorous creature or whatever. But then you look at something like parrots, which have a pretty high IQ, and they're very good at tool usage. They live omnivorous lifestyles, and they don't even have hands. They just use their feet, and they're like 100% good at using tools. And it just shows that you don't need a human body plan in order to do something like that.
And sure, it's not complex tool usage, like they're not like making anything more than they're just like using what's around them as tools. But yeah, it's still the start that you need.
But still, people in sci-fi scenarios will just create humans.
Yep.
That just have different skin.
That's just what the people want to see.
Because you gotta be able to fuck them. That's really what it comes down to.
That pretty much is what it comes down to in the end.
There's no point to having intelligent aliens if a human cannot have sex with them. 100%.
Like no one out here like wants to have sex with Jabba the Hutt, but everybody wants to have sex with like the Twi'lek slave dancer that like he dropped into the Rancor pit.
I'm more of a Togruta guy myself, though, to be quite honest.
More of a Jabba guy myself, to be honest.
I'm more of a Snice Doodle guy myself, to be honest.
I mean, you've seen those lips.
You know it.
Alright, well, we're going on like an hour 50 minutes here. This is about to be the 2-hour bender. This fucking rate.
Yeah.
The bender 2 hours.
Since that topic kind of ended, and since I'm never gonna get another chance to talk about this, because we talked about like old people and conspiracy theories, right?
Yes.
I have another complaint about old people.
Let's hear it.
It's old people and computers. Because I get this thing at my job all the time, and I'm sure you've heard it too. But like something will have to you have to do this thing on your computer or on your smartphone, which is basically a computer at this point. And like an old person will be like, "Well, I don't have a computer," or "I don't know how to use a computer." It is the dumbest fucking excuse ever. Because computers at this point, that excuse may have worked in the early 2000s. Computers have been around and they've been popular since the 90s at this point.
Yes.
It's been 30 fucking years since computers got popularized. There is absolutely no excuse at this point because they've been a staple of life in the developed world. If you do not know how to use a computer, you deserve to be fucking 6 feet under.
Yeah, like geriatric side for all computer literate people.
100%. It's not that you don't know how to use them because they're new technology. They have been around for 3 fucking decades. Either learn how to fucking use it or just stop existing. You've had 3 decades and you did not do it because you're a stubborn piece of shit.
Oh, there is some truth there. I don't know. I can't imagine that there's that many people left. Yeah, I mean, there's exactly one counter argument, and that's like to not be that mad at it because the problem is literally going to correct itself within a couple of years' time.
Well, that's the thing. You've never had to work with these people before.
I guess not.
Like they in any work environment that has something like that, like they will come up to you and they'll say that, or you'll be on the phone and they'll say that, and you have no option because at this point, so many companies and so many job places have already put themselves in a situation where the only way to do a specific thing is online. Because that's just the expected thing. Because once again, computers have been around and they've been popular in the home since the fucking 90s. It's been 30 years. We're coming on 40. Just fucking get a computer. Learn how to use one. It's not hard. They've never been more simple to use. And most fucking people, especially even old people, they have smartphones at this point. Which are computers in your pocket. And they can access all the same websites that a computer could. What is holding you back? Fucking nothing. It's your own stupid fucking brain and you being a stubborn piece of shit.
Take that, old people.
Fuck them.
Real warranted old person hate.
Yeah, it's because we didn't get to do it in the episode that got fucking lost.
So sad.
But I will hold this until they're all dead. Until I stop hearing people say, "Well, I don't know how to use a computer." I will forever be fucking seething about it. It is unforgivable at this point.
I mean, that it is pretty bad. It'd be like if you said, I don't know how to use a phone.
Yeah. How do you dial?
I'm not used to rotary dial. Where's the operator? Alright. Alright, buddy. Get with the times.
Alright, Grandpa. Want your prunes yet?
Go into the Richie tank.
It's time to hibernate.
It's time to hibernate. It's called when international geriatricide policies enter effect, it'll be called the fucking Richie plan.
The Richie Act.
Yeah. In memory of the dumbest alligator that ever lived.
In memory of the saddest alligator that ever lived.
I mean, do we have anything else to add? We said plenty.
I think I nailed that issue right on the head.
You want to call it here before we hit the 2-hour mark?
Yeah.
Okay.